Okay, well, hello everybody, hello here again. Today's interview will be in English, but it's okay, don't worry about it. I'm going to put subtitles as always. Hello, Stephen.
Gosia, nice to see you again, dear.
So much, yeah, nice to see you again. Well, I just helped you with the translation. You just did the interview with another company, and I heard some interesting things. What really caught my attention, I do have my list of questions, but first I would like to maybe ask about the possible disclosure. You mentioned the possible disclosure in 2019. What in the beginnings of 2019, maximum 2 years? What makes you so sure that this might happen?
Again, sure is not the right phrase, but I'm feeling. I'm seeing some possibilities there. There have been major developments in the United States over the last couple of years that most people in Europe are not aware of. And the principal development was that Hillary Clinton finally looked like she was going to be president. She and her political team have a connection to the ET issue they have going back 26 years. Bill Clinton could have been the disclosure president, but he was denied that. She wanted that legacy, and she didn't think she'd have to wait 16 years, but it worked out that way. The issue caught up with her. PRG launched a major political effort and generated all kinds of media regarding her connection to the ET issue, forcing her and Bill Clinton and John Podesta to speak out. A lot of people didn't know PRG was behind all that, but it was. And as a result, she was on record all through the campaign. There was hundreds of stories written, many journalists ready to immediately confront her about this. Then she would have had to just hold them off for about 70 days, and then she'd take the White House and disclose. While this was going on, all the way through the 2015, people inside the Pentagon, the Department of Defense, and the CIA were watching this with considerable concern because they knew that if Clinton was going to disclose, and it looked like she was, and she was the leading candidate, really no one doubted that she was going to lose that election, that they would be holding, as we say in the U.S., holding the bag. I don't know what the translation is in Spanish, but they would be the bad guys. The politicians, Clinton would announce the ET presence. It's a wonderful glory for her. And then everybody turns to the Pentagon. Oh, you're the bad guys. You kept the secrets. You wouldn't tell us. You've hidden it. Secrecy and all this. And the politicians would have thrown the military intelligence complex under the bus, as we say. And they decided that's not good. And so, behind the scenes, a group within the Department of Defense and the CIA primarily came together and decided to take proactive measures. How they got authorization, we don't know. How high the authorization came from, we don't know. But the project was pretty much ready to go by March of 2016. The leader of the project, or the front person, was a gentleman by the name of Tom DeLonge, a musician, but nobody's fool, and had spent many meetings with them, working out understandings, and what he wanted is what they wanted. And he indicated that something big was coming in March of 2016 rather. I wasn't sure it was true, but he said there would be a book that would come out very quickly, and right away there was a book called Secret Machine. I believe the plan was for them to launch the formal program, which is basically going to be made up of former CIA and Department of Defense people, now retired or no longer working for the government, to bring information to the people and to let them know that we're the good guys and help the disclosure process along. In other words, it would be the most powerful public effort ever it would be the most powerful group to ever come together. They planned, I think, on launching it right after the election was over in the November, December timeframe, because they wanted to, again, they needed to be ahead of what Clinton intended to do. When she lost, the whole thing just went up in the air. And it took them 10 months to decide whether they would go ahead and launch anyway. They waited 10 months, primarily to see what was going to happen with Trump. What's he going to do? How is he going to be? Is he going to become presidential? They had one other problem, and that was Putin. They knew I'd gone to Moscow. They knew I'd given an interview on Moscow television, or an interview to Moscow network, that I had the English language version of it, that I was disseminating it to the press, which hasn't jumped on it big time yet. They knew that the Kremlin knew I was there. I've been talking about Putin as the potential disclosure president for 20 years. And so their problem was, we could wait until this settles down with the Trump thing and after the midterm elections, but Putin could announce it any time. And from their point of view, Putin announcing the extraterrestrial presence before they were able to get out ahead of this issue was worse than Hillary Clinton doing it, right? And so they launched it on October the 11th. It's called To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science. It has a website, To the Stars Academy. It has a 10-person team made up of CIA, DOD, Skunk Works, NASA, the works. This is powerful stuff. They've already released gun camera footage. There's been a major news article. This is just starting. And so right now, as I will say in my presentation here in Barcelona, right now the military intelligence complex is leading the disclosure advocacy movement, which is why I don't think the truth embargo can last much longer than the first half of next year.
Point, I do have to ask, it is composed of all these ex-CIA
Sure.
agents and all these government officials. I mean, for that reason, this could be the reason why it shouldn't be trusted. I mean, if this disclose, I mean, many people are saying that, and for sure I've heard that many times. But I do have to ask that. I mean, how can you trust the CIA officials? And I mean, the disclosure that they are trying to provide could be, designed, planned to be managed in a certain way.
Well, you first of all,
can we trust that?
Well, you trust but verify, right? That's Reagan's phrase: trust but verify. I understand that people are obviously they should be skeptical. The CIA and the DOD have done a lot of bad things. Well, they've been directed to do bad things by our politicians. So there is that. However, I assure you that when you look at what they're doing and what they're saying, this is not. It's hard to imagine a group coming forward with gun camera footage and with the backgrounds they have with the intention of lying to the American people. The military intelligence complex denied the issue, kept it secret, and now this group is coming out in the open and starting to reveal information within boundaries. They're not getting carried away. They have certain rules they have to follow. And what they're doing is legal. And so, and I'm following what they're saying. I'm reviewing. They have done nothing that makes me think that they are misrepresenting anything, that they're telling the truth. And the phrase that I use in my presentations now, it's always there, is this: the tragedy of institutional lying is that when the truth does show up, it's not recognized. And so the government has to take responsibility for that. The U.S. government has lied and lied and lied and lied. And so now if members of the government want to tell the truth, people won't accept it. Well, I mean, at some point, you have to make a decision, right? So I expect them to get plenty of skepticism, plenty of criticism. I'm aware of it all. But I've been at this for 21 years. And what I'm telling the people is that this is the real deal. It could lead to disclosure. They're now there's at least one group on our side, and they've got the authorization to go public. That's what we've been waiting for. So accept victory, right? Accept yes for an answer.
Yes. But I have heard, I think it was Lenin who said that. I'm not sure exactly. I think it was him. That the best way to control the revolution is to lead the revolution. If you know that there is a revolution about to happen, and you know what's about to happen, and it's inevitable that it's happening, the way to control it is to lead it.
That's there's some truth to that, except there's not a revolution going on here. This isn't a revolution.
Well, I'm talking about the disclosure, the presence, of that.
Well, the thing is,
people are aware of the presence more and more.
But who did the people think was going to start telling them this information? Did they think it was going to be the guy that runs a grocery store in the corner, their Uber driver? These are the people that had the information. So they're the ones that are going to have to tell us. And they're doing it in a controlled way, and they're advancing the disclosure process. I assure you there's plenty more that hasn't been said. And I'm sure there's opposition within the military intelligence complex as to what they're doing, but for some reason they have got the ability to do it. They've got some leverage here. And so what can I say? There are people... One of the effects of systemic dysfunction and institutional dysfunction is people lose trust in institutions. There are people that have lost trust in the medicine profession, and so they go to a doctor, and the doctor says there's something wrong with you. He says, I don't believe you. Why? Because you're a doctor. You're part of the institution. I'm getting my information about my medical condition from a website in Yugoslavia. This isn't going to work out well. All right. We have to restore trust in these institutions. They have to help that happen. And the way they do it, and the way you restore trust, is you tell the truth. And so when they start telling the truth, we'll start believing them more, and things will start getting better. And so when somebody starts to tell the truth...
But do you believe in the presence of the cabal?
What the hell is a cabal?
The cabal is a secret government that is running the official government. Do you believe? Where is it?
Who runs it? What are their names? What are their email addresses? Where are the locations?
Because that was my next question. Why? My next question was, which actually I do understand why it's in some ways it is important to involve the government in the disclosure of the ET presence. But
it's really important.
It is, yes, and I do understand that. But at the same time, how can we put so much trust in governments disclosing the truth if the governments themselves disclosing it will be going against their own interests because they're involved in the cover-up? Do you believe in the reptilians and all that, or is this too much?
You're getting carried away here. All right. Okay. Let's just state the fundamentals.
Okay.
The government made a decision to embargo the truth on this for pretty obvious reasons. We know what those reasons were, and the question is, when would they end that embargo?
Yeah.
Right. And there was no chance it would end while the Cold War was underway. Since the end of the Cold War, the nations have not really taken advantage of this and disarmed to the degree they should have, rearranged global and international treaties and so forth. We're trying to actually start up a new Cold War is what we're trying to do. That's because we have institutional dysfunction. It's broad-based. The political class is corrupt. And the people are unhappy. I get that, all right? But ultimately, from the people, there are people inside government that don't want this to happen. There are people inside government that want to have a war with Russia, okay? Well, screw them. There are people inside the government that actually believe that trust in government must be restored, that the people have a right to know, that this is the most profound issue in the world today, and we need to know it. So in fact, they're not working against their own interests. They are actually working for their interests. They are doing what they think is the right thing. It happens, People actually do what they think is the right thing. Once people have lost complete trust and refuse to accept anything given to them, that is when a society collapses completely and becomes part of the dustbin of history. So, when the truth arrives, I'm going to do my best to recognize it. And I'm speaking to that, and I'm saying, this is my view. Other people have different views, but I've heard these other views.
Yes.
And they don't hold up. They don't have much weight. There's a lot of propaganda. There's a lot of sophistry. I have yet to hear a solid argument why there is something truly being misrepresented here. So until I hear that argument, I'm sticking to my view.
And by the way, I'm sorry, I just like to push for the answers because I know these questions are asked by many people, and I have
I'm
to
not upset with you.
represent the questions. So thank you for your answers. That's very good. And now I would like to go back to Putin, okay, and the Russian disclosure.
Okay.
Why do you think it could be? And by the way, you have been involved in negotiating with
No,
Russia,
not
or
negotiating.
Talking with them.
I was asked to give an interview on a Russian national network, and I said, fine. They want to interview me in London. I said, no, I'll only interview in Moscow.
Yeah.
And they said, well, fine, but you pay your own way. I said, okay. So I paid my way, got a visa. And I wanted to give the interview on Russian soil. Because what I did in that interview, which is about an hour and a half, is I did something no one has ever done. I've taught on Russian media.
Right.
RT, Pravda, RU, you name it, and all of the various stations and the networks in Russia. And this is an international. This is the federation level station, 400 outlets and 120 million viewer base. Now they used a little bit of the interview in one of their, ET shows, UFO shows, paranormal shows, but that's not what was important. It was the English language version. And I went there with the idea that I was going to test to see where the Kremlin was on this. Meaning, okay, if I go there and I do this interview and I talk about Putin as the disclosure president and exopolitics with Russia as part of the deal, will they block it? Will they block me getting in? Will they block me getting the footage of it eventually? Will it be mentioned in the media? This will tell me a lot about where Putin is. I held about 6 meetings there. Well, I held 6 meetings there with groups of people, most of which had worked in the Russian Soviet government. We did, we just exchanged pleasantries. I got 3 Russians and 1 translator. What are you going to do? But I knew that if I took those meetings, that Putin would know for sure that I was there. I knew the CIA would know I was there. I mean, there's no way that a 21-year political activist dealing with the most sensitive and classified issue in the world is going to turn up in Moscow, and the CIA is not going to know about it. So I'm going, okay, they know, Kremlin knows. And so I came back to London, and a few months later, first of all, an article appears in Pravda RU with a headline, and I need to memorize this. It was something like, UFO activist wants Putin to disclose? Okay. Then I got the film, I got the footage, I put it out, right? There was no consequences there. And so I had to conclude that Putin is not uncomfortable with this being put out there. That was the purpose. But the other purpose was to send another message, which I'd been talking about Putin on English media for 20 years. I bring him up all the time. Why do I do that? Do I love him? Do I want him to be disclosure? No. I want to put the fear of Putin into the Pentagon and the White House. That these people who think the world just revolves around them and things will just happen when they want it to happen, which is increasingly not the case as the U.S. stumbles over and over and over again, that Vladimir Putin can pull the rug out from the U.S. anytime he wants to, unless he's working for them. If he's a CIA operative, they got nothing to worry about. I don't think he is. And I'm trying to remind him of that. Our government is not easy to penetrate. You got to hit them with it's like that old joke about the farmer and the mule. This is the way our government is now. Guy's driving down the road, and he sees a farmer talking. He sees this farmer, right? He's got the mule is stuck sitting down. They're not going anywhere. He pulls over to the side to see what was going to happen. So the farmer gets off the cart. He walks to the back of the cart, and he pulls out this big 2x4. And he walks around to the front of the cart. He takes the 2x4, and he hits the mule as hard as he can on the side of the head. Yep. And he walks up to the mule, and he whispers in his ear. And the mule gets up, and off they go. And as they're passing the car, the driver asks the farmer, "Why did you hit him with the 2x4? He says, "Oh, that's just to get his attention." And that's the way our government is. You got to hit it over and over and over again with a 2x4 to get his attention so you can say something to it. Okay. And so for 20 years, I've been hitting him with Putin saying he can disclose at any time. And if he does, good, fine. It will be bad for the U.S., but long term, we're in the post-disclosure world.
Very nice. Now, I would love to talk to you more, but I just gave me a sign that I have to finish.
Because somebody else is going to take over?
I'm not sure exactly.
I'll be around. We can interview some more.
Oh, okay.
Anytime.
So, well, for now, let's just keep that. Let's do part 1 then.
Until next time.
Until part 2.
Yeah.